All right, people. Good afternoon once again, and welcome to another edition of Channel V's Google Plus Hangout. Today is another day, as I promised last week, and today we'll be looking at the resource control. Delegates at the National Conference have been had daggers drawn over what should be the formula and how it should be derived to certain areas of the country. But that's what they think. What do you guys think? Godi, I would come to you. You seem to be in a hurry and you're somewhere almost under duress, but let me just put it that way. What's your thought exactly?
Well, I'm surprised that issue of resource control is still what they are discussing about, because this has actually been most a hot topic in the last administration or the administration before that, and it was agreed how the resources should be shared. I think that each state or each region should first of all think about how they are able to generate an internal revenue before talking about sharing the national resource. And I know that the talk is because the Niger Delta is seen to be more will be seen to be the most beneficial way for this if they allow each state to control their resources. But again, I believe that we are not tapping into the human or into the potential we have to generate resources. That is why the focus on these derivatives that go to the region. So, in my opinion, we actually should have passed this discussion by now and should be discussing about how to increase the revenue base each state or each region to sustain the economy.
All right, I hope we do that, and I hope that we do that soon. But in moving on, there was this 5 minute, 5% of the whole thing that they're saying will be channeled to the reconstruction of Boko Haram ravaged area. I think that's one of the major issues that brought about this deadlock in the conference. Do you agree with that?
The question I would ask is what would be regarded as the Boko Haram, or which regions can be considered as the Boko Haram ravaged region? Because as we all know, we don't know when it's going to be the next. We don't know where they strike or where they target. We are only focusing on the three states, we're focusing on Yobe, Borno State, and Adamawa. What happens to other regions? What would happen if something goes wrong in other places? So I think that it is not a good policy, and then we should be thinking robustly instead of narrowing it down to something very specific. Of course, it is to be fine if they create a welfare, a kind of what do you call it, welfare situation, a welfare package where people who have been tormented in this region will be able to be rehabilitated, and then provided that the government is spearheading this and putting them back, giving them a good life. But if you say that we should channel 5% to these places and the strike begins in another region, how are you going to share that? How are you going to tackle that? How are you going to deal with such a situation? So I think it is better that we actually think more robustly on how we can expand the resource of the region.
All right, Sonny. Let me just move on. Meanwhile, you heard son Godi's his submission on the issues I just made mention of. But first of all, talking about the reconstruction of Boko Haram ravaged states, in which they claimed are northeast, north central, and northwest. What is your own take on this?
Well, I think, again, the Nigerian leadership seems to be getting it wrong. It is not about reconstructing the ravaged northern states. That's not a problem. There's a first cause analysis or argument to everything that happens. It is about reconstruction. It's about getting to the root of the problem. And nobody seems to be discussing that. And what people seem to be interested in is how much Naira and Kobo can drop into their pockets via the clamor for revitalization fund or reconstruction funds or whatever name they've called it. Nobody has talked about the fundamental cause of the Boko Haram phenomenon. And for me, I think that's more important, that's more germane than looking for money to share. Because as far as I'm concerned, even if it's not 5%, even if it's 100%, that money or those monies wouldn't be used for what they're meant for. And it's so sad. It's so sad because it's almost a repetition. That's what we've been having all these years. If you give them 5%, it wouldn't turn northeastern states in Nigeria into a Mecca or Medina of some sort, or a Dubai of some sort overnight, if you don't tackle the real problem. So whichever way you look at it, if these monies are released, if it's agreed by all the members or perhaps by the government after their submission that the money should be released, it still wouldn't solve the problem. So somebody somewhere is just trying to corner some funds into their pockets, indirectly, or into the pockets of their cronies. Whatever happens to the 5% isn't the problem. The problem is, will the money solve the problem? So I'm looking at it as another wasted, another opportunity to waste public funds, and another mismatch of priorities, and a total reflection of the quality of focus and leadership we have at that conference. It tells you that the people who are representing Nigerians are persons who do not have a clear-cut idea of what the problems we have as a nation is. If these guys are clamoring for 5% resource, 5% reconstruction fund or the revitalization fund for the North, nobody has talked about how Boko Haram started. Nobody has talked about what the governments of those northeastern states, what they've done with all the money they've had all these years since we had democracy. Nobody has talked about the massive corruption endemic in that place. Nobody has talked about the Almajiri, resource pool where these Boko Haram foot soldiers have been pulled up from. Nobody has talked about how Islamic fundamentalism and how the Almajiri school system seems to be encouraging some fanaticism amongst their youth. Nobody has talked about employment for northeastern youth. Nobody has talked about what happens to those widows whose husbands have died in one way or the other. These, for me, are more fundamental problems, other than you trying to begin to then draw money from a pool that is already exhausted. So I think, again, it will be a waste of time, it will be a waste of idea, it will be a waste of resources if such a policy goes through. Mark my words, it won't go through in the first instance. That will be shut down, because I think that it's not just about Boko Haram. The entire country is under siege. The whole of Nigeria is a failed or is working towards being a failed state already. So if there's going to be any such declaration, it should be a state of emergency in all critical sectors of Nigeria and all parts of Nigeria. And it's not about money, it's about us tackling the problem from the foundation. And that, for me, I think would work, rather than this clamor for monies that are meant to just boost or further the egos of some persons.
All right, Olumide, let's just hope that it won't be a waste of time and resources, just as you think it is. Ben, I'll come to you. You've heard their submissions. Olumuyiwa is saying that he thinks it's a waste of time and resources. Ben is thinking, okay, it's a different thing. But what do you think? How do you think we can solve this quagmire that we're facing presently?
I think one of the problems that is facing this national conference is that some of them are not there for our own national interest. Some of them are there for their own personal interest, just to take away the 12 million and go away. That's what they are doing. Because if you want to look at this thing critically, if you check the way, even the way we share the revenue formula of a thing, the way we share the national wealth, even is unacceptable to some level. And of course, I know when it comes to this issue, these problems will come, or I know these things will come up definitely. But if like what my fellow speaker just said now, nobody's talking about the root of this Boko Haram. I was born in the north. I grew up in the north. I was born in Kano. I grew up in Kano, and I know the way these people behave sometimes. You know, majority of them are out of school. They just live with one small malam in a small, uncompleted building. And you see, and whatever this malam tells these kids, that is what they grew up with, because they don't have proper education. This is just the only way, the only way their parents could afford to, give them some level of education through an Islamic way, and they grow up to become public nuisance, and those ones who will be able to do something better, you shouldn't come out as meruas and sugarcane, or you see, and they go to the streets, they take up arms and this kind of and you begin to see the issue of Boko Haram. But even before Boko Haram came into being, we have seen other similar crises in the north, even before this Boko Haram. And so in Kano it has occurred, in Kaduna it has occurred. Boko Haram came and blew everything. When they started planting bombs, everything has has gone out of hand. So, given that 5%, the issue we'll be asking: will this 5% really be used for what they are clamoring for, or will some group of people pocket the money? Because if you look at every month, I'm sure the governors, they come to Abuja and they cut away some huge amount of money and go back to their various states in the name of the developing one or two projects. Go to those states and see, even before Boko Haram, what have these governors, what have they done with the resources they have before? What have they done? What have Adamawa done? What have Maiduguri done? What have Yobe done? So you have to look at what they have before, even before this Boko Haram came into be. And even if care's not taken, someone was saying Boko Haram is being funded with some of the money from the government, and I think to some extent it's true. It's the money you steal from the government that is what is in funding Boko Haram, because a businessman who has worked so hard will not use his money to fund those kind of rubbish things, because it's stolen money from the government. That is what is being used to fund this Boko Haram. So if we don't tackle the Boko Haram issue from the grassroots, we won't. If like give them 100%, you will make nothing good will come out from it. Honestly, the Niger Delta will still be better than them, no matter how you look at it. If you like, give them amnesty. If you like, don't give them. Once these people have this teaching of this stupid teaching in their mind, and they grow up with it, they will still tell their children, and their children unborn, and you see these things will continue to happen. Because for me, the way I'm seeing it, this is going to be a non-stop issue. It's either this country will tear it apart into two, so that they will go and have their own Boko Haram state, so that the rest of us will have peace, or they will decide for their own best interest to come down to and we'll talk about these issues on a round table and know how we are going to settle this issue, because I'm also looking forward to see them fighting in the house, because I'm sure those kind of things will come. Fighting will soon come. What happened in the National Assembly will still happen very soon, because they're entering into the main phase. This revenue sharing of the thing formula. This is the main thing now, where people are clamoring, we need to have this, the resources is coming from our place. So this is the main point now. I think all this constitutional something, this is not even the main problem now. This is the main issue, where to get, because there's so much power at the center now, that once you are at the center, you are the one controlling the resources. So if we don't take away the powers at the center and put it to the various states, so that all the whole states that are lazy, because our states are lazy, what they do is to sit back, month end they come and take some money back to their state, and nobody cares. Anything that comes is from the oil money. The agriculture sector is dead. It's just dead. Whatever I see them campaigning, sometimes I begin to wonder if you have the Minister of Agriculture, what they're doing, So it's so dead. Everything, you just come month end, come at the center, you take your federal allocation and you go back and share it with your local government chairman, your councillor, your colleagues, and the rest of them. And the issues on ground is there. Poverty is everywhere. So we must have to tackle this issue, because right now Boko Haram is on our throat, whether we like it or not. Sometimes I feel ashamed whenever I'm going to school, or I'll just pick up a local newspaper, I'll just see bomb blast in so place. It's all over the news. It's no longer a new thing. Here I see it on their local television. They say it in their language. They say it in television. It's just like everywhere now. So sometimes it's like, I don't know. We are beginning to have a bad image outside the country, because we are here. We know what we feel here. I know. So we just have to do something about it. The issue is this: where is that money going to? Who are you giving the money to? It's the same people who are piloting the affairs of the same people who are sitting in there. These are the same people you still give this money to. So I think to a very large extent, I think something has to be done. That's all I can say for now.
All right, Benny, you're saying that credible people should be put in charge.
Yeah, if you have credible people, I think things will be in place.
All right.
I don't think there's anybody right there who is credible enough, who you can trust and handle this project for me. I think if we have them, there are only few, and even the few ones, they won't even allow them to come up.
Okay. Been quiet for a while. I'll be coming to you. Sonny, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Sonny?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great. So let's just talk about, at the moment, there is a 13% of the resources which is has been oil producing states. How justified can you say? How justifiable would you say those funds have been in terms of region?
Okay, thank you. If I could hear you clearly, you said as justifiable, they have spent those 13% that have been given to the oil producing state, right?
Yeah, that's in terms of the develop, how much to develop
Yeah.
that area.
I will be frank with you and honest with you. I know that the governors in those states in Niger Delta, they are not really serious about development. They are not serious about development. If they are serious enough, I think we have a better Niger Delta and a better oil producing state. For instance, if any governor in Delta State tell you in the news or come to your station that is doing better in the Delta State, developing all the areas, that person is just lying. I know the 13% is not enough, but even that little, they have not been able to use it to develop the states. For instance, development is not something that we want them to come and give us money, 5,000 every day or every month. We just want them to put a basic amenities. For instance, giving those communities a good schools, give them a good public health care, give them affordable water that they can get access to. These are these are the basic things we need. And most of all, security. These people are not using those money as it is proposed. Let me tell you something. In the Niger Delta, we have NDDC. Then we have the SOPADEC. That is for Delta. If you go to Ondo State, you have ONSOPADEC. I don't know what they are doing with the one in Ondo State because I'm not familiar with Ondo State. But that of Delta State where I came from, I will tell you that the development is zero. They are not doing anything. It's just for a way of those people on top to collect funds and share within themselves in monthly basis. But however, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't fight more of resources control because, like you asked a question a while ago that the North is agitating for funds to redevelop some of those places that are being destroyed by the Boko Haram activities. Let me tell you, if Nigeria as a country, all the states are controlling their resources, nobody will come up with that they want federal government to develop money for them to go and take care of one thing that one part of the country that insurgency have destroyed. Instead of them to think of how they can end this situation because they feel that some of them are making money from Boko Haram activities and they want to bring out other strategy of making more money from the federal government. So what I'm saying is that, and what I think is obtainable is for we as a nation to look back again and sit down. This sharing money from the federal to the state is not helping us. If states are controlling their resources, if states are controlling their resources, they will sit down there and think of how to develop their state, think of how to put the right structure instead of traveling from one state to another to hold a political meeting to form from one party to run to another party. You see, governors in Nigeria, I mean, they are not doing anything. All they are after is to sit down and get money so that at the end of the day, they will share it within themselves because they don't have any other thing. Everything is dependent on oil, which they don't even give account of how many barrels they produce a day. So the 13% that they are giving to the Niger Delta, the governors have not used it wisely, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk of the resources control because if we can achieve that, that will put more seriousness into every state. Because right now everybody is depending on the federal. That is why you see people talking about bringing about stupid idea. Some people are talking about amnesty for Boko Haram instead of we to fight how we can end the crisis. They are not talking about that. Instead of coming together to tackle the problem, how Boko Haram is being sponsored, they are not looking into that. They are thinking of how to get money to them and different things. So what I stand for is, and I think most Nigerians are speaking for, is for resources control. Either you make it 50% or you make it total, so that the state will be responsible for right now, as I'm talking to you, responsible to the state. If you interview any governor in Nigeria, he will ask you that it's federal government. For instance, yesterday I saw on the news that the governor is saying that for we to have a stable power in Nigeria is for we to vote PDP out of power. Our problem is not even party. Our problem is Nigerians, and by we Nigerians, because those APC, PDP, they are people that form PDP that they don't have the power, and they decided to form another party. From that party, they become APC. So they are all PDP. As far as I'm concerned, any political party in Nigeria, they are all originated from PDP. So for we to solve Nigeria problem is we have to come back to look into this issue of resources control. I don't want to believe that all the states in Nigeria, they don't have anything to produce. All of them are being blessed in their unique ways. So if we can tackle that very well, we will get something better, because right now everybody is looking to the federal, whereby no governor wants to take anything serious. At the end of the day, he believes there are some billions coming into his state accounts. He can use that to do all sorts of things. So that is my own take. Thank you.
All right, Sonny. Great. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you can also send your comments. Just send via a tweet using the hashtag resource control. Godi, I'll come to you. You are. Can you hear me, Godi? It seems you're trying to say something.
I can hear you. Yes, I'm trying. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So
great.
Sonny just said, he spoke about this money is not being properly used. What would you say is the main function of the NDDC as well as the Niger Delta Ministry? Of course, they also receive so much funds from the Federation accounts.
Yeah, I think he's made quite a lot of good contribution on this topic. My opening remark didn't address quite a lot of this in details. I do agree with him. You see, we have to get certain things right in Nigeria, especially beginning with our attitudes, our mentality for things to really work. Because we say we are practicing a presidential system of government, which is borrowed by the American style. But so many things goes wrong with our own system that you will not see it happening. They say, yeah, America didn't get there today. Of course, they didn't get there today. And but that doesn't mean that we actually shouldn't be thinking of how to get right things. Now, how does resource control work in these countries? Now, we have what you call, like these countries, we are very busy copying their system. We have what you call that the states or each region contributes their own resource to the federal government, and individuals also contribute to the federal government. So they have state tax and federal tax, so which is actually drawn automatically from your payroll or from your business venture. This is how government is being run, and people are able to, or the people who manage these resources are able to give accounts of their own. While in our own situation, we are busy fighting for this because we know that if we are in control of the resource, we will become more powerful. I think that it's time we begin to depoliticize so many things and think about more constructive and ways of how to handle things, because it's all about corruption. It is the corruption that is driving us to think in this way, to think that if we do things in this way, we actually become more powerful and get away with it. A couple of years ago, the Abacha government did set up what they call the Petroleum Trust Fund. The Petroleum Trust Fund, hello? Okay, the Petroleum Trust Fund was used to, created to help governments or help the states and regions to develop them. Then we have the NDDC that have come up with the same idea, the same goal. Who knows what is going to come next? It's going to be the same idea, the same objective. And what does this organization do? This organization ends up making people rich and does little to the states or the regions they are supposed or they are designed or created to help develop. So are you going to tell me now that the only thing that NDDC or this PTDF, whenever they came up, that they can do is to help to repair my road or to give me water Are these the things that they should actually, or that the government should be wasting money on creating or sponsoring them, that they should be doing these things? I think that there should be more ways in which we can handle the resources. Because, like I said, corruption is the root of all those things. If you think that if you are in the side of a government and you are awarded a contract, look, I told a friend recently that anybody can become a contractor in Nigeria and get rich. But not everybody has the right thinking to be able to create something, to develop something that will be sustainable in the system. Because what you're looking at, everybody is going to say, oh, this man, oh man, I know this guy. You have to beg. You have to beg to become or to get something. And we virtually have become beggars in our own society. Because if you don't beg and become loyal, you're not going to get anything out of it. So for you to be getting something, you have to become a perpetual beggar. You can be rich, but you're begging. Because if you don't beg, nobody gives you a contract. So this is what is actually killing us, because we have the resources, we have the potential, but we lack the intellectual capacity to be able to use our resources to develop our society how we want. So NDDC or no NDDC, I think that whatever NDDC is doing is what any local administrator should be able to do. Because if I am, for example, if I am a local government, if I am a councillor, just start from the councillor. If I'm a councillor of a ward from a local government, I should be able to know what my ward needs, then be able to present it to my councillor. And my councillor should be able to think about the projects or the things that should be able to help my ward. And then my ward will have to look at it and say, okay, yeah, this is what is good. Then we present it to the state, and we look at budget. What would it cost? If we are not able to fund it, then we have to source funding of it. And we ensure that from the conceptive or the conception of the idea to the putting it into practice, and to make sure that it finishes, that every channel, every chain has been followed and looked through and worked, that the whole thing becomes successful. How many abandoned projects do we have in our country? We don't have, their budgets are not abandoned because the money was not allocated for. The projects were abandoned because, like someone said, that contract money is a political money, you know. So contractors are not meant to be accounted for. The system would not work like that, because it doesn't matter how many percent. It doesn't matter what comes up. Okay, what's going to come up next year, 5 years, in 10 years? What's going to happen again? If this one finishes, if the issue of the Boko Haram crisis finishes, before it was the Niger Delta region, now it's the Boko Haram. If this one finishes, what's going to happen again? Have we ever thought about that? And how much are we going to be thinking next time to allocate to those regions? So these are the things which we need to really start from the roots, from the bottom, solving issues, and we. Well, just in one last point. I heard in the conference that they're agitating for more states. For crying out loud, why would you want a state when you do not have the resource to build or to develop the state? You want to have a state and you put an extra burden on the government to share more resources. I mean, if a state cannot be funded self or independent in terms of generating its own revenue, then there is no reason for a state to be created. But all these things have been lobbied because it is going to benefit a lot of political factors, a lot of politicians who are out there lobbying for these things to happen. Because once you create a state, it opens opportunity for the guy who is not a big game player to become a local game player in the newly created state. That is the way I see it. So I think that what we have currently, the 36 states, are enough. The problem is managing the resources that are being given to these places. That's mine. And I get to quickly leave. If you.
Okay. All right, Godi, it's fine. You can leave. We understand you stepped out of a wedding to catch up with us on the Hangout. We do appreciate your time, your sacrifice as well, and your thoughts on the resource control issue that is presently bringing a serious debate in the national conference. All right. Olumide, let me come to you. Godi was talking about contract money being political money. It's actually a sad commentary to make, but unfortunately that's what we have obtainable right now in the country. But just moving forward, Do you agree? I mean, Ben and Ben also previously said the 13% is not justified. Gordy also added that the NDDC, Ministry of Niger Delta, are also not living up to their billing. But then a minority report is now saying that every state should be responsible for 100% control of its own resources. Do you think that will change the status quo?
Well, you see, ideally, in an ideal world, when you have a federal arrangement, the whole concept of federalism is for the component units to be stronger than the central government. What it does in federalism is that if you have a very strong component unit, it allows them to grow at their own pace, allows them to develop at their own pace, and in the final analysis, you have a combination of several developed areas coming up to lift the country up. That's how it happens in civilized climes. That's how it happens in Canada. And that's what happens in the US. States are supposed to be viable. Components of federating units are supposed to be able to cater for their own people via the resources that they have in their domains and all that. If you have a system that is truly and thoroughly working, that is the norm. That is the ideal. In our own case, the question begs the answer. Do we have a system that can guarantee that? How are we so sure that if you do have a resource control formula that allows states to be in charge of their resources, how are we so sure that the massive corruption that has eaten deep into our fabric would not affect governance? How are we so sure that states with godfathers who decide what happens in those states will not pocket the resources that belongs to all the citizens of that particular state, or all the people living in that particular state? So because we have a peculiar country, because our situation is special, it requires a special solution. That explains why I might not totally agree that states must 100% be in charge of their resources. Because you will be surprised if that kind of an arrangement is implemented, there will be no development. What you would have is a certain people would continue to get richer at the very expense of the very large or vast majority of poor citizens they have in their states. We do have that divide, that huge gap already. What we would have in Nigeria is a further widening of that gap. So the answer or the question would be, what then do I suggest? I will argue that states should not just be given the free hand to control their resources, but a certain minimum percentage, 18–20% wouldn't be bad, should go to the states where these resources are being produced. And if you're able to do that, if that becomes a law, then you must also set up the necessary machinery that would ensure that whatever monies are gotten from such proceeds are properly utilized. That way, we probably could be talking of development at a slower pace, but much better than what we have right now. So for us, what we have isn't about what goes into states. What we do have is how those states, how those resources are being harnessed, how they are being managed. We don't have that management culture. We don't have that maintenance culture because there isn't any system that can manage that. And because corruption has become the godfather of politics in Nigeria, whoever becomes governor or who is in charge of those resources sees himself as a demigod at the expense of his own people or our own people, as the case may be. So we need to look back into our archives and argue for a situation where chief executive officers of states would not just be in charge of resources, where accountability would be more pronounced, where there will be due process in the award of contracts, and where a governor would not have immunity in office. So much so that when he steals from the public can have a way of dealing with him. Until we have those structure in place, we will be wasting our time. I tell you something, the current 13% that we have is enough for a reasonable leadership to develop a state, if they want to. The likes of Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Rivers State, Edo State, and all the other oil producing states have been having this 13% for only God knows when. What do we have to show for it? Lucky Ibn stole so much money. In the final analysis, he arrived at a plea bargain with the EFCC, and he was left off the hook. Ibori stole so much money, and the Nigerian courts couldn't prosecute him. He had to escape to Dubai, and from Dubai was arrested by Interpol before the UK helped us to prosecute him. So what you have is not about how much percentage of resources these people get in terms of naira and kobo. What you have is corruption as a major bane of our development. And until we're able to fix that, no matter the amount of money you give to this state, you will never be able to solve that problem. And that is a much more serious problem. You will continue to have a situation where the resources will continue to come, and there will be nothing to show for it. You continue to have a situation where godfathers will continue to demonstrate how mighty they are, and they begin to assume what Harold Laxwell defines politics as the principle of who gets what, how, and when. So godfathers will always continue to decide all this, and it's going to be a shame. So first, moving forward, we must redefine our structure. We must make public offices less attractive. We must set up the required machinery that can make these resources work, and we must empower the people to ask the right questions. That's only when we should begin to talk about resource control. We should be talking about what happened to those monies that have been given in the past, and not giving them more, because as far as I'm concerned, we got little or nothing to show for it. There's actually no state in Nigeria now that is not heavily indebted, which tells you that these things are not properly managed. So it should really cause for serious concern, and we must look at that from the roots, and not from the top level that people are beginning to target.
All right, Muyiwa, your own concern is not the percentage of money that is being allocated to these particular regions, but people that will manage this money. Sonny, do you agree with Muyiwa on this? Can you come again, please?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he has stated this whole point. My view is that because right now the states, they are all blaming the federal for everything. That is why I am of the opinion that let's shift a little of responsibility to the states. For instance, if we go on with this, our system of federal government controlling of the entire power system, I tell you, 50 years to come, we will still have problem in the power sector. So if we can give states more resources for them to manage more of these things, some states can provide power on their own. So if we can give them a little of responsibility, not that much, little, because all they have, they are governors in Nigeria are like God now. They are too powerful because of the money they are having. So I'm of the opinion that let's give them little of responsibility so that they can take care of little things that within their power in the state. Because if you go to some states, they say that road is federal, so nobody do anything with it in the state government. So that is why I'm of the opinion that let's give the state little of responsibility so that let's see what they can do, because they are saying that not only the Niger Delta that's getting that 13%, even some state in the West, they are saying that they want total resources control. So, and this thing, they have done it before. They said it worked well then. So let's try a little of it. If that can change a little of the situation then. Another thing is that we have to focus on the issue of corruption, because if we manage that area of corruption effectively, I tell you, governors, any politician will think of delivering instead of taking to his pocket. Because it's a free country whereby you can become a governor and within 2 months you buy a private jet and you go to church, pastor will pray for you, you are blessed and nothing will happen. Because it's that kind of system. So even if I become so corrupt that I get money from one way or the other, pastors will call me that you are blessed, your enemy will die, those kind of stuff. So nobody is fighting of trying to give himself good image. All they do is to steal money. So what I'm saying is, in essence, is that let's give the state little of responsibility than what they have now. Because what we hear is accusing the federal government jumping from one political party to another because they don't have responsibility. Because all they are looking for is for state. Is for the federal government to give them allocation. If we give them little of responsibility, I think they will think twice and try to do more of development, try to carry up some project that will benefit the state more than what it takes now. Let me use Dubai as an example. The UAE you hear of, Dubai is a state on its own. All the development activities is taking place in Dubai. Abu Dhabi is also developed a lot, but every other thing you talk of that doing competition in the world, they all come from Dubai. Why? Because the ruler of Dubai is a transparent leader, so he tried to do things that no other leader has ever think of. So if we give the state little of responsibility and give them little of what they have now. Let them focus on what they can do. Then you will see a little of competition, because right now they are seeing free money from federal purse, so they don't think of what they want to achieve. They all sit down there and award ghost project that nobody is taking care of. But if we give the state a little of responsibility that you go and do whatever you like with the resources you have, let's see if they are not going to be serious in what they are doing now. If states are being responsible of getting allocation for themselves, let's see if a state governor is interested of making sponsoring some kind of people in different party to give coefficient in several states. Let's see if they are going to do that, because right now they have free money that they don't work for, money that's coming from where they don't even know how they got it. So that is why they are kind of living the lifestyle they are living. Then the state will be more interested of what the governors are doing with their resources, what governors are doing with their funds. Because right now they will tell you that we can't pay workers, we can't pay this, we don't have good road, we don't have good primary school, because federal government is not giving us good allocation to take care of all these things, because we have little this, that. So that is why I'm of the opinion that if that is what they have been saying all around the country, let's give this state little of responsibility. Let's see what they can do if they are getting their own resources, if they are getting their own money from within their state. Let's see if those things, if they are not going to manage those resources, because it's different between when you are working and making money and when someone is giving you money. The money you work for, you will think of spending it wise than when you receive free. So that is why I'm of that opinion. Thank you.
All right, Sonny, thank you for passing what you just did pass now. But then, let me also remind you that you guys can use the chat box in case someone is making a submission that you don't disagree with, or you want to add something to what he's saying. You can use the chat box. Of course, just drop your comments. I'm going to go through them and read them, and then we also look at them. And also, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can also send your comments using the hashtag resource control. You tweet those comments at ChannelsBeam. Thank you for watching, and we do appreciate your watching, and we hope you guys could have joined us on the Hangout to add your voices. But then, thank God, there are other channels that you can make your contributions heard. Suleiman, thank you for joining the Hangout. I just saw you just coming on.
Well, Victor, thank you, and thanks for everyone in the room discussing this important issue.
All right, very well. I'll come back to you, but just before I do that, let me speak to Ben. Ben, you heard their submissions on certain issues, you know, about increase of the percentage of the allocation to these certain states. But what exactly is your thought on that?
I think Sonny made some points there by saying we should give the state some certain responsibilities. I quite agree with him, because currently what we have right now is people who come at month end to collect money to pay salary, because this is what our governors do. Every month end they come to take some money and pay salaries and relax. And if you watch now, virtually every politician we see, they have one or two companies registered with CAC. You see, all you see them fighting for is at the end of everything, whoever goes in there will serve their own personal interest. They will get contracts, you know, and they share the money, whether the contract is done or not. That is what most of our politicians are doing today, you know, walking in and out of the lobby. But let's come to the reasons and let's see these things, how it works. If we give the state some responsibilities right now, because right now we can see our governors becoming so powerful, becoming so powerful, making noise, and the governor's forum and the rest of it are thinking they are God. And one of the things we should do is to remove that immunity that is on them, that you cannot persecute a state governor, even when he has he's looting out, cutting away the state funds. We should remove that immunity so that we can persecute these governors. When something happens, we are quick to join and say, oh, the president is corrupt. But we forgot that the governors themselves are more corrupt than even the presidency. To some extent, we have seen the level of exposure Sanusi blew the whistle of 20 billion. We don't know if the $20 billion that is missing, if it's true or false. The Senate is still investigating. He blew the whistle. We're not quite sure some money is missing there. This is not the first time. But what about the state? Who is blowing whistle? And the state governors who is saying, look, some certain money is missing from the state coffers. Nobody is blowing that whistle. But we can see whistle blow where at least we can see some level of transparency at the center. But in the state level, nobody is seeing such transparency, and this goes down to corruption. If we can put some of this as states, they should give them some responsibility, and instead of you coming to take from the federal, you will give what you have to the federal. I think some of these are states that are lazy. Will begin to think of how to improve on their own, on their own self. Look down deep yourself. What do we have? We have way back then the Granite Pyramid in Kano. Today nobody's talking about that. The agriculture we have today is left for the poor people to do. Nobody does that. Some of these states are very good. They are very good. We have fertile soil where you can, even in a year, you can grow. You can at least you can cultivate in the 2 farming season. You can grow a cassava, or guinea corn, maize for 2 times, 2 times a year, and this will come and you have a lot of food. Tomato, a large tomato belt, everything is abandoned. We just live for small peasant farmers, little old men or women who try to do one or two things just to feed their tummy and their household. Probably say the last one they have to send their own son to school, who will maybe graduate to be a lawyer or a doctor and will not go back to do the same thing. You see, because we have not made that agriculture to be more lucrative for them, so they will not find it. They'll just see it's suffering. So let's just come and look for a white collar job, but if you can put some sort of responsibility on the state governor so that they can also work hard, work on themselves. Let the Niger Delta control that oil. They don't have good soil for agriculture. They want to buy the granite. They would like to buy the granite and the onions from the north, and not to watch their oil in other ways so that they can also further. So you can see trade going in, and this will help boost the economy. So at every month, and you bring what you have to the center. If it's 50-50, fine. We'll bring 50% of our resources. We'll give it to the center. It will bring competition among the state governors. And I think the issue of corruption of the thing, I think you can easily fight your own governor than fighting the whole Nigeria as well. You can easily walk to your governor and say, look, this is not how we want it. We can talk to them because it's a particular region. So since you all control your own resources, you have the manpower to talk to them. And it will be very easy for us to flush out these bad eggs we have in our society. Right now we have a lot of people speaking. It will be very easy for us to flush out, in a particular state where 2 or 3 people can gang up. Look, we don't want this to be this way. This is how we want it. And where that at every month end you have to pay 50% of what you have to the state, to the center. I think it will help you to work hard. Instead of you to sit down at the month end, you come and collect what you have at center, pay salaries, and maybe we give some contracts that will never see the light of day as it's happening. And when even one of those contracts are done, they are not even done international standard. We can see a school in Oshobo that has just collapsed, and this is a school that they spent billions of naira to do, and look at the school, it has just collapsed. You can just imagine the level of corruption that has eaten into our bone marrows. It's so everywhere. Everybody is lobbying 1 or 2 contracts, just to get it, and we will sponsor your next election. These things, think if we continue this way, we will not go anywhere. We will still remain the same place, the same portion, and every time we keep hearing big budget, and that is why these governors, even with what you have, 13%, what you have right now, because the governors have the guts to look at, look, when I leave the office, I should be able to get some huge pension for myself, because they have seen the level of the kind of money flowing into the government purse. Because if they don't know the kind of money flowing, they won't have flowing into the government purse every month, and how they get this money. You will not have the mind to sit back and say, let me award 10 million naira for myself every year for medical trip. We have seen the kind of money, and so it's like being greedy. How can I go and leave the whole money here? So I should try and make some laws that will favor me, so that when I leave the office, I should be able to eat something. These are, is greed. It's greed, because so much money is coming into that place. And that is why they have the guts to do that kind of, they have the guts to pass such bogus pension into law. The Kwara State have done it. The Lagos State have done it. Akwa Ibom blow the whistle, and unfortunately he was able to put a cap on it, and which brought everything light of the day, and everybody is saying, wow, this is what is happening. Before now, nobody knew. Before the Akwa Ibom state governor, nobody knew, but all these things were happening. Virtually all the whole state governors, So these are the issues you look. Even with what we have right now, if our governors will be very sincere with what they have, if you go to their state, I think you will see some level of development that will give you joy. In our education sector, build it very well so that you can have people from outside to come and, study, and also contribute their own quota to our own economy. Today, like I speak to you now, what Malaysia have done is that they have succeeded in making this country an educational hub. Where if you come to this place, you have over 200 million people. People keep coming, going. At least from the last statistic I saw about 45,000 Nigerians documented. I don't know the undocumented ones in this country. So you keep imagining, some are students, some are not, some have, so you keep imagining how much we pay into their government, how much school fees we pay. And you see, we are thereby, and with this money, we are bringing this money from home, and we are expanding another person's economy. They are building skyscrapers, twin towers, making their country an international trade zone, is a tourist zone. Of course, the country is peaceful, so we can say all these things, and we come here for holiday vacations, and just like, I just don't know what to say. I don't know, but this bad corruption is what is the main problem we have. If you can cut it off, if you can cut corruption off, even with the present allocation these governors have right now, if you can cut this corruption off our system, I think Nigeria will be a better place for all of us to enjoy. That's all I can say right now.
All right, Ben, saying you don't know what to say and then saying that corruption is what is the major problem, I think you contradicted yourself. But then talking about missing money and whistleblowing, Muyiwa is saying that it's not about giving them more money or responsibility. He says we should, as youths, be concerned about what has happened to the funds they have gotten. He says if you keep giving money to someone who can't utilize it effectively, we will only be encouraging impunity in governance, and that will lead us further backwards. Sonny is complaining that he can't hear anything. Sonny, I think you need to work on your audio to be able to listen to what's happening on the Hangout, at least so that you can be abreast of what other commentators are saying. But then, Sulaiman, you just joined the Hangout. I'll be coming to you. We've been talking about the resource control. It's one topic that has brought about a stalemate and at the national conference. If you look at it, the South delegates are making so much demands. But now they're saying they want an increase of their resources to be 50% increase in the derivation formula, or a total control of everything by every state in the federation. What do you think about that?
Well, what I think about the national conference, I think we discussed this before we get to where we are today. From the inception of the conference, if you remember, Victor, we discussed that. The conference is just charity, trying to divide the country in this critical, important period of our nation, when we have general election less than 8 months to go. Something. I think we've discussed that in this Hangout.
Sure.
But so now clearly you can see the result. The country is already divided along ethnic, religious, region zones line already, and we've anticipated, we've predicted the outcome of the national conference before it even kicked off already. So it is a shame at this age we're talking about revenue sharing. The main point of the national conference is discussing about revenue sharing, not revenue creation. To understand the point, we need to move from who gets what percentage from our national coffers and start thinking of revenue creation. You understand the point? The only reason is because most of the states or our leaders cannot think out of the box. If you can think out of the box, you don't need to go to a national conference and struggling about we need increase from the derivation and so on and so forth. We need to start thinking on how to create revenue, not revenue sharing. You understand the point? And the issue is on the increase of the derivation from to Niger Delta State, and the issue of giving northern states 5% derivation. I think before we get to that, we need to ask ourselves. I think the 13%, the Niger Delta State has been receiving 13% oil derivation for about 8 years now. So we need to ask ourselves, how does that percentage affect the lives of those that truly own the oil in the Niger Delta, those people living in the riverine communities? Do they have access now to better health care, education, environmental? What about their environment? So those are the kind of things I think the delegates from the National Conference should be asking from the South-South. It's about accountability. How much derivation has been allocated to Niger Delta? Do they spend it effectively, or who does the 13% derivation benefit? Is it the political elite as usual? And we can all see it is the political elite, because I mean, the people in the riverine community are still living the same they were living 8 years or 14 or 15 years ago. When we returned to the democratic system of governance in 1999, the people in the Niger Delta community are still struggling with the environmental issue, the lack of access to clean water, and so on and so forth. They are still 15 years after the return of our democracy. So I think it has nothing to do with the amount of the derivation being allocated to specific states or parts of the country. It has to do with accountability. Because those that benefit from the derivation formula are mostly the political elites. And the northern delegates that are clamoring for 5%, or we should ask our governors, for example, how well did they utilize the resources that they are receiving currently from the federal coffers? We need to ask our state governors, we need to ask our local government chairmen, let them show us the projects they've done with the resources they've selected. I mean, if you can access the revenue information sharing from, I think, Ministry of Finance. So you can see how much your state receives, and you can match it up with the development project or the project of your state governor on ground with the amount of the resources, if they tally. So I think all these things about revenue sharing, about increment, and so on, the main thing is corruption, my brother. So we need to really, it's up to us, the masses of Nigeria, because I think it's still going to benefit the class, if you like, increase the resource derivation to Niger Delta State to 50%. The core poor people in Niger Delta will remain the same in the next 5 or 10 years to come, and they will still blame that, oh, we don't have enough resources, we need to control our resources 100%. But I don't think there is any country in the world where you have a federation system where states control 50% of their resources. It doesn't happen like that. You go to United States, you go to other places in the world. It doesn't happen like that. So the main issue is accountability. You know, and our leaders, they are too great. People are, we don't think about our society at all. All we think is our just individual interest, not collective interest as a society, and how to move Nigeria forward. And I'll give you examples. The issue is very open to everyone. It's corruption. That's what impedes our development as a nation. The last 14 years or 15 years of PDP government couldn't provide stable electricity to our nation. Now, Lagos State Governor, in 7 years of his tenure, built 4 power plants. So it's about leadership. Whether you are a governor from Jigawa State that have little federal resources, you go to Jigawa State, go and see the development stride that Lamida has been doing. I mean, the only state you can point, for example, in Southwest, or in South-South is Port Harcourt, and to some extent Akwa Ibom State. But the issue is, even in those states, if you look at the amount of resources that they are receiving as revenue, is the development matched with the amount that they are receiving? No. You have, for example, in Akwa Ibom State, the governor, using private jets in 2 or 3 years that amount to taxpayers' money of almost 10 billion. No one is talking about that. Ibori gives New Rwanda about $15 million US cash from Delta State money. So those are the kind of things we need to be asking. And now if I talk as a northerner, for example, the people from Southwest will stand up and, the people from South will stand up and, for example, defend James Ibori because he's their kinsman. And now, for example, if you point one corruption case from my own state, for example, in Kaduna or Kano or something, then people from the northern part will stand up and defend their kinsmen. So it has nothing to do with derivation. It has more to do with how we are as a people. You understand the point? And it all we encourage corruption. Our culture encourages corruption because we protect our kinsmen, we protect our tribesmen, religious sentiments, or everything plays in. Now, if you talk about Jonathan, for example, doing nothing about fighting corruption, even with the level of endemic corruption that's going on in the country. I mean, people from Southeast, South will stand up and defend him. Oh, you Northerners are speaking this. How about Babangida? But of course, Babangida or whosoever is corrupt doesn't legitimize another person to be corrupt. If I'm corrupt, does not mean Jonathan from South as a president should be corrupt. My corruption shouldn't legitimize someone's corruption because it's from the other part of the country if we really want to move forward. So if we're really serious as a nation, we shouldn't be looking things from, we need to look at things from objective point of view. How do we move as a nation? But for me, I don't think derivation increment of the central thing they should focus is how to utilize the resources and how to fix our skewed constitution that protects people that steals our public money. I think that should be the central point.
All right, Suleiman. Again, corruption pops up as one of the causes or one of the issues that needs to be tackled properly and effectively in this conference. But again, we'll just in moving forward, Muyiwa, I'll come to you on this. Minority reports have always been coming up, especially in the issue of resource control. At least we saw one during the last one in 2005, and another one is coming out now. What do you think about the trend?
Well, again, Victor, we should go back a little bit to what has happened to the previous reports that we've had over the years. Nothing has happened. You know why anything hasn't happened? Nothing has happened because we don't again have a functional system that can implement those decisions. The foundation of the constitution of those procedures that led to those formulas or those ideas aren't even suffice enough to sustain them. So we're going to be just beating around the bush. We're going to be, we're going to be recycling ideas if care is not taken in this country. Whatever recommendation this committee or this conference comes up with, I am quite sure that it's going to die. It's going to be dead on arrival. It's going to be dead on arrival because it's not automatic. Whatever recommendation they make will still have to be subject to the approval of the National Assembly. A National Assembly that comprises majorly of these same bad eggs that have been the major problems we've had as a people in this country. So nothing is going to come out of it. It's just a charade. It's an opportunity for some people to just get some money, relax, and then while away time, pocket 12, 16 million naira, and go home and sleep. I'll give you an example. Some few weeks ago, the president set up a committee to look into the Chibok abduction. Now, that committee submitted its report to the president. Before the committee submitted its report, it went around the country, went around Borno State, interviewed some people according to what members said, and then they submitted a report. That report has been abandoned by the presidency. And that's what's going to happen to this conference submission also. It's a problem that we're not looking at. The problem is that there's no basis for us to be talking the way we are talking. The genuine problem we should be talking about is about the entity called Nigeria, whether we should continue to remain as a people. That for me should be the People's Conference. And it's when we agree to continue to remain as a people that we can then be talking about resource control, 5% revolution and all that. The simple truth is that the majority of these people who make up this conference don't even believe in this entity we call Nigeria. They only believe in their pockets. And when you have such a combination of people deciding what happens to the future of 160 plus million people, then you can expect the worst from them. So I think whatever decisions they come up with will go down the wire the way some other previous committees have done. What happened to Obasanjo's Okuta panel report? Nothing. The only thing we see from that report is we watching the outcomes on YouTube. What happens to the first conference Obasanjo organized? Nothing. The same way nothing is going to happen to this one also, because the foundation was faulty, had been issued. But that said, there are enough good things that have come out of it. Interestingly, we have seen a couple of beautiful decisions. Decisions that have to do with state police creation. That I think is a good thing if it can be implemented. I've also seen arguments for states to have some moderate control over their resources. Beautiful point. But the point is, will it be implemented? The answer is probably no. So I think that's just shamefully another opportunity for some people to get rich at the expense of an already impoverished people. And we need to ask ourselves how long we'll continue to talk and when we'll continue to act in this country. If you don't know where you are going to, you can at least know where you're coming from. The question I'm going to ask them, or I'm going to ask Nigerians, is that, do these people know where they are going to? The answer is no. Do they know where they are coming from? I'm afraid the answer could also be no. So, irrespective of whatever they come up with, for me, I remain convinced that it's going to end the normal way the others have ended, and it will be a no significant conference in the final analysis. So I don't have any hope at all whatsoever, whatever they do or whatever they are doing, because I know they're just wasting their time. But what bothers me is how long we'll continue to talk in the midst of this crisis demanding attention. It is not about what problems do we have, it's about how do we solve our problems. We do have a problem. Everybody knows there is a problem with Nigeria. Question is, how do we resolve that problem? We don't resolve problems by talking. We resolve problems by taking action. And you cannot take action without falling back on previous commissions that have been set up. White paper reports, commission reports, millions of naira were spent on those reports. Nobody has acted on them, and nobody's going to act on this also. I will be surprised if this report or this commission or whatever report it turns in, if it sees the light of the day. I will be very surprised, and I'm hoping they're going to prove me wrong. And if it does, good for the country. If it doesn't, well, we will always continue to be where we are.
Passion-driven submission there, Muyiwa. Thank you, and we hope also, just like you do, that this particular one will be acted upon, unlike the others. Sulaiman, I'll just come back to you quickly. You spoke about the countries where other federating units where they don't control 50% of their resources. For now, they're proposing that the share be reduced, as for the federal government, be reduced from 52.68% to 42.5%. For the state government, it should be increased from 26.72% to 35%. And for local governments, to be increased from 20.60% to 22.5%. Do you think this will change the situation on ground?
It won't change anything. The only thing it will, I don't think, Victor, it will not change anything. Rather, it will give the governors of those states more resources and more powers, because most governors in their own states now are like semi-gods in their own way, because, I mean, in most states, the governors control the state assembly. They pocketed the state assembly. So, I mean, state assembly cannot, it's not even what we have in the federal parliament, where you have, for example, our House of Reps is a bit vibrant and active, where they agree and disagree with the president. But in most states, the only time you hear, for example, a state governor is disagreeing with his state assembly, which should be the institution that is checkmating the excesses of the governor, is when we have the scenario that is currently playing out in Adamawa State, where, for example, the government at the center wants the governor to be impeached, or the situation that we had in Port Harcourt, when the power that may be at the center wants Rotimi Amechi to be removed. So that's the only time when you see the state legislature become active. I don't think it will not change anything. The only way to move forward is, I think, how should we increase accountability and transparency within our system. Like I've earlier mentioned, I mean, if I go to my own state, will be the same way I lived it, for example, 4 or 5 years ago, without any development. Where are the resources that the state receives from federal government? Where are they? And where are the federal projects that we're hearing from or reading from newspapers every day that so amount of money has been allocated from let's say Kaduna Zaria Road, let's say Kaduna Kafancha Road? Where are the projects? Those are the kind of things we need to ask. I mean, like I've mentioned, money has been budgeted in for power sector since the return of the democratic governance in 1999. During Obasanjo alone, about 27 to 30 billion US dollars disappeared on power projects, and we still don't have power. And I mean, for God knows how much during this current administration, we still don't have the power. So it has to do with accountability and transparency. You give Kaduna State $100 billion, the political elite within the state will still share the amount of money. You give Rivers State $100 billion in 1 month. I mean, Ameta and his friends, if they decided, they can still share the money. The same with Akwa Ibom. It's the same thing at the federal, at the same time now. I mean, an alarm was raised that about 20 billion US dollars cannot be remitted into our federation, into the federation account. The only thing the president can do is to come to the defense of the minister that is accused of corruption on presidential media chat. I mean, the only defensive is that, oh, she's been to national, and I mean, the minister was called by a body that our constitution empower on oversight to the executive arm of the government. But the only thing the president can say is, oh, I mean, she's been there for almost 200 times. You understand the point? And the money is still missing. Finally, I think the Senate made their report yesterday that they concluded that 20 billion US dollars is not missing from the federation account. And I mean, come on, this is common sense. It takes 6 or 7 months to reconcile accounts, and you end up coming out with a result from the legislation, from an arm of government that's supposed to be representing the poor Nigerians, but they come up with reports similar with that of the executive, which means, I mean, the political elite are all together. You understand the point? The Senate come up with reports that, I mean, tally up with the executive. That, oh, no 20 billion US dollars is missing. So our main problem is accountability. So that's the thing. Every aspect is we, the masses, are the receiving end. The issue of increment of the percentage, now, it's just another thing to divide the country. You understand? People, those in that national conference should ask, how does United Kingdom law prosecute not a United Kingdom indigent, but a Nigerian indigent that has property in United Kingdom? So those are the kind of things we need to be asking. We cannot prosecute someone in our country that as a citizen, but he was prosecuted in a country that is not even a citizen just because he owns a property, because you need to show how you amass such wealth and to possess such property. But in our own country, it's a shame that we cannot prosecute our own citizens. But a nation that he only has some portion of the stolen amount there, prosecute him and put him in jail. So those are the kind of things we should be asking ourselves, not the number of derivation that is allocated to federal, state, or local government.
All right, Freeman, we're actually running out of time, but let's just go one more round. Last question, I would advise that you guys be quite brief and concise in your next submissions. If you look at the fact that, I mean, the last conference also came to almost an end when South-South delegates staged a walkout over resource control. Do you see this trend happening this time around? Sonny, I'll come to you on this just in wrapping up.
Please, can you repeat the question again?
Okay, I was talking about the last time we had a conference. There was a stage out by the South-South delegates actually staged the walkout. Do you see that happening again? They did that over resource control, and this time around, it has been a smooth sail all since the beginning. And now that resource control issues have come up on the floor for discussion, we have a stalemate. Daggers are drawn. Do you think we'll have another walkout, just like the previous one?
I don't think they will work out. Working out or no work out, that is not going to solve any problem. And the issue of resources control, I think it shouldn't be our big focus of discussion. We should think of how to manage our entire resources we have as a country and try to fight corruption and give account of whatever money we have been giving off. Because resources control is kind of going to divide the country in a way that all the focus are in Niger Delta, because Niger Delta is producing oil. If we give them more money, the other part of the country will not have that much. So that is kind of giving the country divided attention. I think we should focus on how to utilize our resources, and most importantly, we should fight corruption, because that is the only way we can achieve development if we want to develop as a nation.
All right. Ben, what's your take?
My take is that everybody is saying it's corruption, so you can see everything amounts to corruption. It has eaten into the system, both everybody, so you can see what is happening there. But I think the political actors know how to play their way in this matter. I think they will still they want to resolve this issue of revenue sharing, because I know the Nigerians are feeling cheated. Of course, they are supposed to feel cheated. If I'm the one, I also feel cheated, because you take my resources and at the end, nothing comes. I get nothing from but air pollution, water pollution. There's no proper healthcare system. No good. The environment is not even conducive for you to even build your house, or even your farmland has been spoiled. You can't fish, So, and even them themselves, what they have, they cannot even the people piloting their own affairs, their main chiefs, the local traditional rulers are also political. I think the politicians are also using them to execute their own selfish desires, and so all this comes to play when it comes to the issue of military.
All right, thank you, Ben. Muyiwa, what's your take on the walkouts, the possibility of a walkout?
Well, I think that every time you have a jamboree like that going on, you have several people trying to show the stuff they made of. So it's a continuity of the, in quotes, madness we got in terms of what we call leadership in Nigeria. That would not really happen. They will resolve it. What I'm more concerned about is who's going to ask these people questions when eventually it turns out that they have wasted our resources, our money, and our time. Nobody's going to hold them accountable for this wasted 15 or 12 million naira they each going to pocket. Nobody's going to ask President Jonathan questions about how he spent or how much he spent on the conference. This for me are more germane than whatever trash they're going to be coming out with. And so I think moving forward, Nigeria needs to redefine the kind of talk it holds on itself. What we need is not to talk. What we need is more action. We can actually get things going without gathering a 60-70% assemblage of old men to come and decide the affairs of a totally youthful population. That for me was like putting the cat before the horse. So was before the cat. So we must redefine our priorities. We didn't get things right this time around. Hopefully, let's hope that next time it won't be a committee being set up or a conference being set up again, the action. That's all we need.
All right. Sulaiman, what's your own take?
Well, for me, I think I would not be surprised if we experience another walkout in this conference, either from northern or southern or south and south or southwest delegates, like the way we had in the previous conferences, because most of the delegates were either, most of them are selected, because you doesn't have, I don't see the parameters they use in electing those delegates at the conference. So mostly they were selected by their governors based on loyalty, political affiliations, and so on and so forth. So I'm not expecting anything positive actually to come out of this national conference, because like I've earlier mentioned, we predicted exactly where the conference is going to end up with from the inception of the conference. So, and if we experience any walkout, I won't be surprised either, because I mean, the conference is just a jamboree, like we complain, and waste of our national resources that should be utilized in addressing some of the fundamental issues we're facing, like security and poverty and many other social vices that Nigeria is currently facing.
All right, Suleiman. Thank you, Suleiman. Thank you, Sonny. Thank you, Muyiwa. And thank you, Ben. It's been a robust and very, very passionate. Of course, we saw a lot of you speaking with passion, with a lot of vigor, and with a lot of hope that this country will change, and that this conference will actually bring out the needed and desired result that will change the fortunes of the downtrodden and masses of this country. But for now, we have to call it quits. We have to stop here. We've spent far more than what we should have spent. That's in terms of time. We do thank you and appreciate your comments. Thank you for joining the Hangout. Those of you watching on YouTube, thank you. We do appreciate your viewership as well. And for those of you who sent your comments, we do appreciate them as well. For now, we call it quits until I see you again next week. It is the channel's Beams Google Plus Hangout, and I am Victor Matthias. Thank you once again.